Good morning. I see, I see caffeine levels are running a little bit low, so I'll get you to the coffee soon. All right, so I have about 20 to 25 minutes with you, and I want to take you through a quick breakneck speed tour. Now, this is me at work. I started off in the industry about 3 decades ago in hotel operations, and since then I've been in digital marketing. Because the world isn't complete without good acronyms, we created our own. So I run a group called Prisma, which is basically partnerships, revenue, intelligence, strategy, Marriott Bonvoy, Andrew, still here, by the way, and analytics. And at Play, what I do is I like tinkering with tech. So finding practical use cases. Any Star Trek fans in the room? Any Star Trek fans? Okay, I need to come find you in the break. But what I like doing is, I spent a lot of time evangelizing digital marketing 20 years ago, and I picked that back up a couple of years ago in early 23 by creating the first 30-day AI challenge, just to sort of push myself, right? Because the whole point of being in this room is pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. All right, so I want to start with a provocative question to you. If you could give your teams 1,000 minutes back in the next month, how would you invest that time? Now, 2 disclaimers here. One, this is not a sales pitch. I'm not here to sell you consulting or a tool or software. And this is not a Marriott pitch either. Even though I work for Marriott, I'll talk a little bit about what we do, but this is more about pushing ourselves as a collective commercial audience out of our comfort zones. Now, I thought I could stand here and tell you a lot, but I think it's better to show you, so here's a quick video I whipped up. Hey, for this AI session, give me a memorable line that connects sales, marketing, and revenue management with the power of AI.
Sure. How about something like, think of AI as the universal translator that lets sales, marketing, and revenue management finally speak the same language, turning data into dialogue and insights into action.
This intelligence frees us from the mundane to deliver the magnificent, a true human connection.
So what are you waiting for? Automate the mundane using AI. Reclaim 1,000 minutes. Then deliver the magnificent. All right, for the remainder of our time, I'd like to tell you a story. Thank you. All right, so let's talk about the future that we're preparing for, right? And when we get to that future, it will be tech-enabled, but how do we ensure it's also human-centric? I think that's key. And then how do we in this room get future-ready as commercial leaders? All right, so let's dive in. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you've heard a lot, but clearly crystal ball grazing has quite a few perils to it, right? A lot of smart people get this wrong constantly. Telling the future or predicting the future is not easy. But what is true is that technology becomes a lot quicker in terms of adoption, right? If you think back at rail and later air travel literally connected us physically, and it made the world a smaller place. Electricity might have taken 4 decades to adopt, but it turns night into day. If you think about the internet, it's completely transformed how we think about commerce and connectivity, and it actually laid the foundations also for the Gen AI revolution, right? Because we essentially took everything we could find on the internet and baked that into these digital brains. Now, what I would encourage you to do in this room is, obviously the hype cycles about Gen AI, but there's a lot of value in traditional automation as well, right? So using tools to create simple processes in automation. We've been using machine learning in revenue management for ages, right? So nothing new there. And then, of course, the generative capabilities that we now have with AI are quite exciting. Now, it's been a long journey, right? So we've been at this for about 7 decades. It didn't start 2 years ago. Clearly, there was a seminal moment with ChatGPT in November 22. And since then, there's been a proliferation or an arms race with these models. Now, the interesting thing is, ChatGPT is a large language model, right? But there are many different types of intelligences. So human intelligence is very multifaceted. So what large language models do really well is linguistic intelligence. But as you saw in that video, by the way, none of that video was created by an agency. I did that on my home computer, right? So if I can do something like that, you definitely can. But we've started cracking a lot of these other intelligences as well, right? Which we thought were not accessible. Musical intelligence. We've got these digital brains thinking longer, so we're cracking logical intelligence. We've cracked bodily and spatial intelligence with the combination of AI and robotics. And to a large degree, interpersonal, intrapersonal, we've sort of created the illusion of having cracked that through linguistics. But a lot of the AI that we have today is very narrow, right? We're sort of forging ahead towards a general intelligence. There's a lot of smart people who think we might get there by 2030. So that's literally 4 or 5 years from now. Whether that happens or not doesn't really matter. The sort of horizon beyond that is super intelligence, right? Where AI sort of exceeds the cumulative capacity of human intelligence. Now, when we get there, of course, all bets are off. So I won't predict what happens there. But it's a good coffee break discussion. But I think what's key here is, just as electricity allows us to turn night into day, we now have intelligence on tap. You can literally flip a switch and access world-class intelligence almost for free. So there's a few things we'll need to solve for, right? So there's 6 things. The first, clearly, customer expectations evolve a lot quicker than we do as an industry. So we've got to catch up, right? Whether that's in terms of personalization, in terms of speed, in terms of the interfaces, right? Chatbots aren't the perfect interface for everything. A lot more AI is now creeping into hardware as well, right? So we've got to think about that. We've also got to think about our lovely, lovely tech stacks in the industry. Looking around the room, I think half the room probably will agree that some of the legacy tech stacks that we rely on are quite terrible. Just as you can't fix a broken leg with a Band-Aid, AI is not going to fix everything for us. So we do have to overhaul these tech stacks. We've got to have clean data. We've got to have good processes in order to benefit. Economics, clearly. CEOs are wondering what we can do with AI, but clearly you don't want this to be a shiny new toy or a distraction. You actually want to have P&L impact using these tools. Of course, inclusion, because we've sort of hoovered up the best and the worst of humanity into these brains. initially using the internet as a source. So sometimes it can be biased. Clearly, you want to have inclusion in terms of serving our audiences. Regulation, right? The EU AI Act has sharper teeth than GDPR. But what I would say is, if you are using these tools already, please make sure you keep guest data out of public tools. Always use a human in the loop. And of course, if you're scaling efforts, then involve the right subject matter experts. And lastly, as we sort of inch our way towards AGI and ASI, alignment is going to be the key challenge, right? How do you align AI with the values of humans? You've probably heard this famous thought experiment about asking an AI to optimize for paperclips, and it basically destroys the world to create paperclips because the alignment or the goal wasn't set very well. All right, so how do we take this future that's AI-enabled but make it human-centric? Now, I personally think that the best tech is never the hero of the story, right? If you think about the best tech that you use, it's not the hero, right? It sort of blends into the background and enables you to do more. That is good tech. And for the people in the room that travel a lot, you probably know this, right? There's not a lot of glamour in travel. There's actually a lot of friction in travel. So how can we use this to either remove friction along the customer journey or add personalization in key parts? I think that's the key. So just by a quick show of hands, how many of you are using AI on a daily basis already? So pretty much most of the room. How many of you are using enterprise-safe versions of these tools? So tools that you can use your company data with. Okay, a few folks. Keep your hands up if you're using Microsoft Copilot as that tool. Okay. ChatGPT. All right. Anything else? Gemini. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. So now that we have intelligence on tap, I want to give you this amazing new acronym. How do you use that intelligence and go fast? So let's talk about what that is. First, GenAI is absolutely amazing in terms of finding and understanding broader context. So it makes for amazing search tools, right? So if you think about Google today, they're already disrupting their established business model by disrupting search. But the other great thing about this is you can actually use this to tap into all the knowledge that you have as an enterprise and pull it out a lot quicker. One of the things that we've done as Marriott is we deployed natural language search on homes and villas a couple of years ago. So basically what you can do is, instead of just using the normal filters, you could say, I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment in Dubai overlooking the sea. And it basically gives you the right apartments and homes. But we're also creating tools for our associates to find that knowledge quicker, right? Whether it's the call centers. So for example, when you call the call center, instead of having to look through different knowledge-based articles, the call center agent can just type in that query in natural language and get back a quicker response. So they can spend more time with the human at the other end of the call. Deep research is absolutely one of my favorite features. So if you haven't used it, please do try it out. Whether you're looking for your own content within your emails and files, etc., or even just looking for the best ramen place in a city, this is absolutely amazing. It basically goes off and does deep research for you and gives you a very detailed report based on hundreds of websites. Now, if there are any GMs in the room, I know there's a couple. I think the first place you can probably start is simplifying owner updates and making them more personalized. And of course, getting the right tools in the hands of your associates, right? I think the GM in the future is going to be an orchestrator, which actually, gets people comfortable with this new tech. The second bit of the acronym is automate, right? So if you can take the mundane bits of what we do and automate that, absolutely amazing. So one game-changing feature for me has been call summaries. Anybody using call transcription today? If you aren't, you're missing out. So good example, right? So we had business planning meetings recently. There were about 12 calls. I could only join 2. But we transcribed all those calls with AI, and I could get instant summaries of what was discussed in those calls. So you literally can be in different places at the same time. Clearly, automation has a role here as well. So if you go back to sort of Power Apps and other tools that have been around for decades, you can actually use those to create some amazing things as well. So for our HR team, for example, has created a recruitment platform internally that automates the flow of steps and input. Or you can use agents. So we've been hearing about agents for quite a bit now, right? So the first thing that sort of pops into your head, if you're a sci-fi nerd like me, is Agent Smith in The Matrix. Not quite that, right? Agents are super simple. They've been hyped up quite a bit, but at the simplest level, an agent is essentially something that can perform a task without you having to prompt it every time. So a simple agent could be like this email buddy that I've created, where I've given it explicit instructions in terms of how I write, what I prefer in terms of output. So I can drop in any sort of gibberish in here, and it's going to spit out a very formal, professional email in my tone of voice. So a huge time saver. Or you can create more complex flows as well with multi-agentic setup. Now, anybody tried out agentic browsers in the room? Just by a show of hands? Comet, etc. Yeah? I mean, complete game changer, right? You can literally have the browser do the work for you. For example, I could go into my LinkedIn and say, look, I've got these 20 connection requests. Can you figure out which of these are not sales pitches and accept them and decline the sales pitches? I don't need to do that manually anymore. Sales folks in the room, I think the best place to probably start with Gen AI is RFPs. Huge time suck, right? So I think if you can automate that, that's a huge game changer. Now, the next bit is, of course, simulate and test. You can really dive into insights, whether that's your reputation or reviews. You can take hundreds of reviews and get core themes really quickly. You can use it to forecast and analyze, find themes in the data. You can take really detailed reports like this KIFT report, right, which is 200-300 pages long. And you can visualize it in different formats. So, for example, what I did here was I dropped it in and asked it to create a mind map. Or you can have it create an audio podcast that you can listen to, because you just don't have time to read that whole report. If you haven't used it yet, by the way, Google's Notebook LM is probably the most criminally underrated tool. It's absolutely amazing. If you want to learn anything about anything, you can take a whole bunch of content, drop it in, create FAQs, quiz cards, videos, audio. Amazing. Revenue folks, I think probably, if you're using certain tools, ideas, etc., I mean, they've already started embedding Gen AI features. So I think the first win you can probably explore is how do you do scenario testing using natural language. And then finally, tailor at scale, right? Because Gen AI, it's in the word, it's generative, so you can create a lot of content, whether it's marketing, training content really quickly. We've started using Synthesia to create our training content, so very branded, perfectly sort of flawless. You can use it for personalization and creating ideas. The one thing I would say, because we have intelligence on tap now, we are living in an age of intelligence abundance. So if you want ideas, if you want brainstorming, don't ask for 2 ideas or 3 ideas, ask for 20 ideas, 30 ideas. And then work with the AI to iterate and find the best one and discuss why that's the best. That's the whole benefit of having these tools. And of course, translations is an obvious one as well. Marketing, I would say that, you probably saw this in the video as well. Lots of content variations, journey mapping, personalization by customer audience. Really easy to do now. And if you're also using image editing tools like Google's Nano Banana, you can actually do image editing a lot quicker now as well. So if you remember one thing from this is fast, right? Use Gen AI today to find stuff, to automate things that are mundane, to simulate and then tailor and personalize content. Now, I'm not going to drain this. Clearly, lots of opportunities in the back office. But please, if you're putting stuff out, it's not at a level of accuracy where you can trust the output completely. So always keep a human in the loop. Check the tools that you're using, that they're safe for the company. And also the licensing, right? If you're creating content that you're using commercially. All right, so to wrap things up, how do we get future ready in this audience? Now, I took some liberties here. I asked Mona, which of our leaders in this room would make great superheroes? So, Sam, I don't know if Sam is in the room. Well, there you go. Well, they are superheroes. They're commercial superheroes. So, look, I think there's 4 traits that will make us collectively superheroes in the future. One is What? Well, you're very wise, Mona, and you're probably the most adaptable person I know. So, hence, Morpheus, you've got to keep up with the times, right? So, we've got to get really comfortable with learning and learning quickly. But also, experiment, try new things. You're not going to break anything. Try something and then, speak about it with your teams. Um, so, I hear Alex is great at asking great questions. So, look, this is general purpose technology. So, the better the questions you ask, the better the input, the better the output, right? So, that's key. Clearly, just because you can do something with Gen AI doesn't mean you should, right? So, I think the value of ethics and debate is going to be key. And also making sure that whatever we're doing is protecting our associates, ourselves, our owners, our guests, I think is going to be key as well.
Just left the AI session at HSMAI. They showed some interesting commercial applications, and my owners are already asking me what I'm doing about it.
All right, so that's not somebody I ran into the lobby, right? This is completely AI generated. It took me literally one text prompt and 1 minute to create. It's hard to tell if it's not real, right? So, and if anybody's used new tools like the social media app from OpenAI called Sora, you can actually create hyper-realistic videos with your persona in them and give your persona to the whole world to create videos. 1 week after that launched, there were tools on the internet to remove the watermarks. So if you're seeing a lot of stuff in your social media feeds that you just don't believe, it's probably AI. So the floodgates are open. Which leads us to the last superhero, Brian, which is, you've got to toss this trust but verify motto out of the window and just verify, right? If something seems too good to be true, double click into it. All right, so when you get back, these are the things I would encourage you to do, right? First of all, we've got to get the basics right. Product positioning, distribution, great photography, all of that stuff. But with Gen AI, you've also got to think of this as going to the gym, right? Buying a gym membership doesn't make you buff. It's actually going to the gym. So use these tools, experiment as much as you can. It's not about buying software and subscriptions. You've got to think in workflows. What is the job to be done? Is the process clear? If it is, then you can apply AI to it. And then finally, have the safety discussion, right, with your teams and with your family. Within our family, we've had this discussion as well because it now only takes about 3 to 5 seconds of audio to clone somebody's voice. So we have a safe word, a safe number, a safe gesture for video with our kids. So please have those conversations as well. So what I will leave you with is that challenge that I started the session with, right? If you have a workflow or two in your mind, jot it down now or in the break. That is your challenge for the next 30 days. Go experiment, go try it out. And then if you can reclaim that time, give it back to your associates, to your guests, do more strategic work. I want to leave you with a gift. If you go to that URL or scan the code, I created a guide with 100 prompts just to get your creative juices flowing that you can use in hotels. If you want to watch the video again, that's also available here and a whole bunch of other resources. And if you want to connect and chat, I'm happy to. So final thought I'll leave you with is it's not really about what AI can do. It's about what you do with it. So what are you going to do with it? Thank you.